Hello, welcome back to our Fallout 76 guide. Let's talk about playing while over the weight limit. Or in other words, how do you survive as a fat bastard? I have two characters and with both of them, I'm pretty close to maximum encumbrance. That's been the case for at least a few seasons, and I can tell you that it's perfectly viable to play Overencumbered. And with the release of the new heavyweights legendary armor, you can also get a guaranteed 10% damage reduction for each armor piece. So that's a guaranteed 40-something% damage reduction total. You don't have to eat or have caps or do anything to get that. You just have to be fat. And as you'll see in this video, playing fat is actually really easy to do. Before we talk about how to play fat, there's a couple of disadvantages that you should keep in mind before you decide to accept your fate and join me in the dark side. One of them is that you can't sprint. Unfortunately, the fastest you'll ever be able to move is at a jog. But the only situation where that's a real issue is during the second stage of raids, if you run for gas cans. In the rest of the game, sprinting is simply not important enough that you'll even notice the difference. The other disadvantage was that fast traveling used to be restricted if you're overweight. What this means is that you couldn't fast travel at all if you were fat. But with the change to the travel agent perk, now you can. But it costs a lot more caps, so I recommend you watch my recent video on fast traveling for how to travel anywhere for free, even if you're overencumbered. Knowing that method is a must if you want to play fat, so make sure you watch that video. I'll put a link in the description. And finally, the game does have a hard limit on how much you can carry. As you pack on the weight, you'll be slowed down to walking speed. And eventually you'll hit max weight, and that means you can't pick up anything else, and you can only drop things. Trying to use consumables will just destroy them, so you literally can't heal yourself. So as you can probably tell, you want to avoid max weight. But the good news is that you can extend when you get to that limit. I'll go over the details later in the video. So as you can see, there are some disadvantages, but they're not insurmountable by any means. It is viable, so now let's go over how to play while overweight. The first thing to know is that instead of storing legendary weapons in your stash, you should carry them on you. That's because you can use weight reduction perks to reduce the weight of weapons, so every weapon weighs 90% less if fits in your inventory. This is a massive saving. You can also reduce weapon weight via legendary properties on your armor, but keep in mind that the weight reduction caps at 90%. So if you have 5 pieces with weapon weight reduction, you'll only get a partial benefit from the last one. So you can go for 90% reduction or 80% plus some other bonus. But regardless of how you do it, what this actually means is that it's always better to carry weapons on your character instead of storing them in your stash. The downside used to be that you would become overencumbered, but you already know the disadvantages and workarounds to being fat, so it's not a big deal anymore. There's also a locking mechanism, so make sure you lock any valuable items to avoid dropping them by accident. The same philosophy also applies to other items that have weight reduction. There's perks for food and chems, so you should always carry those on you instead of stashing them. I do store a few fish, like the axolotls, but that's from before the locking mechanism was added. I'm thinking that I should probably put them in my inventory instead, but we'll see. If you have Fallout first, then you can store chems in the new chem box. But if you don't, then I strongly recommend you also carry chems on you, and use the Traveling Chemist perk to reduce their weight. You can also use backpack mods to reduce item weights. But if you get into power armor, that takes off your backpack. That might send you way above the absolute weight limit. Which means that you can't use consumables and anything you drop gets destroyed. So be mindful of that. I found myself trapped a few times and had to dump some good items. I personally use a junk weight reduction mod, because in an emergency, I can always dump junk to get below the max weight limit. It's a bit ironic, but when the mod was being given out in a season scoreboard, I thought it'd be a useless mod. But here I am, and it's my preferred choice, so the joke's on me, eh? It's a different story when it comes to armor. The changes with Season 24 make armor in your stash weigh half of what it does in your inventory. And there's no perk to reduce the weight of armor. That's on top of an overall reduction to armor weight. So when it comes to armor, you should always store it in your stash instead of carrying it in your inventory. In my case, I store a few pieces that are close to being god rolls, so I can mod them into perfect pieces later on. Anything else is either scrapped, stripped, or sold, with the heaviest items going first. Another thing to watch out for is the miscellaneous tab. A lot of things that have weight go there. There's no way to reduce their weight in your inventory, so if you do have space, then it's better to store them in your stash. So things like those improved repair kits should go into the stash. You can dump the basic repair kits if you want to, or at least you can if you have 1000 plus improved ones like I do, but bear in mind that raids don't give you as many now, so you may want to keep all the repair kits. Just in case, you know. Yeah, I'm that guy, the guy who ends every game with masses of unused potions. But basically, it's a good idea to go through each category every so often, sort by weight, and see if there's anything that's weighing you down. You might be surprised by what you find. But no matter how good you are at inventory management, you're eventually going to end up close to max weight at some point. So it's important to know what to dump to reduce your weight. In my case, I prefer to focus on legendaries first. Basically, I scrap if there's something I could learn. Maybe I keep it for later if it's close to being a god roll. And I strip the heaviest items until I hit the daily cap. Anything else that's heavy gets scrapped. That used to be power armor pieces, but now they're pretty light, so it tends to be weapons now. But basically I sort by weight and scrap the heaviest items. And normal weapons and armor get sold for caps. If you're still learning mods, then you should scrap them instead, but I pretty much know all the mods already, so I'm okay to sell. After armor and weapons, it's food I look at. I tend to have loads of meat to sell, so I sort by condition and sell some of the most rotten ones. Purified water is also good for caps. Basically, weapons and armor I pick up, plus food and some chems, is enough to reach the daily cap limit. After that, I dump ammo and junk if I have to. There's designated containers at every player hub, or you can use the donation boxes. But the most important thing is to know what you want to keep and what you're okay with selling. Usually that's enough to keep you under the max weight limit. I said before that you could change when you hit max weight. I don't know exactly what the calculation is, but I can tell you that increasing your normal carry capacity also increases your max weight. So if you're going to hoard lots of items, like me, then you want to max your carry capacity. So start by having 15 points of strength. There's a good number of weight reduction perks, so it's always a good idea to have some strength. In my case, I use a bunch of legendary perks to boost my attributes, so I have more perks than most people. Each point of strength increases your carry capacity by 5, so it's worth getting as many points as possible. Make sure your under armor has the right lining. Marines and boss give you the highest strength. The plan for them drop from Atlantic City expeditions and boss events like Test Your Metal. It's supposed to be a 5% chance once a week, but I got the Marine for both my characters on the first try. So learning all the other plans will increase your chances of getting the plans from expeditions. The other option is Secret Service, because everybody can buy it from Vault 79. It only gives you plus 3 strength, but that's pretty good for a default option. If you need Flux, I covered how to do that in the guide for farming Flux. I'll put a link in the description. Armor can be modded with pocketed and deep pocketed mods to increase your carry capacity. The deep pocketed gives you 10 more carry for each piece, so that's 50 more carry. If you don't know them, you can learn the mods by scrapping pieces of the same armor. You can add strength boosting legendary stars to both armor and weapons. Unyielding gives you up to plus 3 at low health, and you can get another plus 2 from the second star. So with 5 pieces of armor, that's another 125 more carry capacity. And you can add third stars to reduce the weight of weapons and items. I personally prefer sentinels for the damage reduction, but it's an option if you need to save a couple of perk points. For power armor users, you can use calibrated shock mods on the legs for 100 extra carry. And if you use excavators or Union's power armor, they give you 175 extra carry for a full set. Then there's mutations. Make sure you use the class freak and strength in numbers perks to get the most benefits. With those cards, Marsupial will give you an extra 25 extra carry. Herd Mentality will give you +3 on all stats, including strength. On top of that, you can also use food buffs. There's 2 types of food you can use to buff your carry capacity. One directly increases your carry capacity, like for example roast beef, and another way is to do it indirectly by increasing your strength, like for example Deathclaw steak. If you're a carnivore, that will triple the benefit from all meat. The best foods for boosting carry capacity are smoked Myrloc fillets and Yaoguai pastries. They both give you +75 carry, and they last for an hour or more. You can get Myrloc fillets from the Myrloc steamer you can buy from the item store when it's on sale. The Yaoguai pastries are sold by the food vendor at Nukutur, and if you're lucky, you can find up to 3 just lying around in the store. If you need more than 1 pastry, you can simply log out and log in after a minute to get a different server. For strength, you can use Deathclaw steaks or Stingwing fillets for a +5 strength bonus for 30 minutes. Deathclaw steaks you can get from the Deathclaw Slow Roaster, again from the item store. And of course, it's always an option to cook your own. If you can't get those items from the item store, you can just visit a bunch of player camps and stock up, because pretty much everybody has those items now. Personally, I don't remember ever being slowed down to a walk while using both carry weight and strength boosting foods, so one of each should be enough to keep you jogging. If you're really desperate, there are drugs and drinks you can take for a very short boost to your carry capacity. Anything psycho and most alcohol will give you some strength. You can also equip the perk to boost alcohol effects too. Rat Ant Lager used to be amazing for a boost to let you fast travel. You learn the plan from the daily quest that the best NPC in the game gives you. But it's not really necessary anymore because you can fast travel while fat if you use my trick. If you're only going for the 150% carry capacity needed to get the maximum boost from heavyweight's armor, then you simply won't need to boost your strength or carry capacity. It's only greedy gits like me that can't bear to part with anything that run into those issues. So as you can see, it's very easy to play while overencumbered. And because of the new heavyweight's legendary property, you're also getting the maximum possible damage reduction, all without having to do anything. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. You get the best bonus just for being fat. You can tell that at least one of the devs is also a hoarder like me. How do you do, fellow fatty? I appreciate what you did.